So this song is for my 7 and 70-year-old self. And I encourage all of your current selves to sing along if you know the words, and if you don't, get out.
Sometimes, even legends get jealous. When Dolly Parton, one of the most iconic voices in music history, heard one of Miley Cyrus's latest hits, she didn't just praise it. She stopped in her tracks and said something that left everyone stunned. "That should have been my song." Now, it's not every day that a superstar of Dolly's status admits she wishes she'd recorded someone else's track, especially when that someone happens to be her goddaughter. But that's exactly what happened when Miley released her emotional ballad, "Used to Be Young." It wasn't anger, it wasn't bitterness, it was something more powerful, a mix of humor, admiration, and maybe even a little regret. And it set off a conversation no one expected. To really understand why Dolly's reaction carried so much weight, you have to look at the bond she shares with Miley. This isn't just two stars in the same industry. This is family. Dolly has been a guiding presence in Miley's life since the very beginning. She's not just the godmother in name. She's been a mentor, a supporter, and sometimes even a protector when the spotlight on Miley burned too bright. Over the years, Dolly has publicly defended Miley through controversies, applauded her risks, and celebrated her triumphs. From the Hannah Montana days to the reinvention of Miley as a pop powerhouse, Dolly has always been there, cheering her on. And it's not one-sided. Miley has just as much love and respect for Dolly, calling her a source of inspiration and someone who helped shape her career. Their bond blends family affection with artistic admiration. So when Dolly jokingly claimed that "Used to Be Young" should have been her song, it wasn't just a witty remark. It was layered with decades of love, mentorship, and the kind of honesty only family can get away with. But what was it about this particular song that made Dolly say it out loud? When Miley Cyrus released "Used to Be Young" in 2023, it felt different from her usual chart toppers. This wasn't a flashy anthem or a radio-friendly hit. It was raw, stripped down, and deeply personal. The song became a reflection on her past, the wild years, the controversies, the reinventions, and the price of growing up under a microscope. At just 30 years old, Miley poured her heart into lyrics about what it feels like to look back at youth that was never really private, never really normal. Fans described the track as hauntingly relatable, a bittersweet anthem for anyone who's ever looked in the mirror and thought about how much they've changed. But it wasn't just fans who noticed the weight behind the song. When Dolly Parton first heard it, she wasn't just impressed. She was shocked. And her reaction turned into one of the most memorable moments in their relationship. When Dolly Parton heard "Used to Be Young," she didn't hold back her feelings. In true Dolly fashion, warm, witty, and unfiltered, she turned to Miley and said, "I don't know if I like that new song, because it's not fair. You're young and beautiful, singing about not being young. And here I am, almost 80, thinking, that should have been my song." It was classic Dolly, part joke, part truth, and all heart. Behind the humor was something deeper, a recognition that the lyrics about fading youth, about reflecting on life's journey, might hit even harder for someone who has actually lived nearly 8 decades. Her words weren't meant as criticism. If anything, they highlighted how powerful Miley's songwriting had become. Miley had captured emotions so universal that even Dolly, with her lifetime of wisdom, felt them echo in her own soul. And for fans, it created a fascinating contrast. A song written by a 30-year-old pop star resonating just as strongly with an 80-year-old country legend. It was proof that the struggles of identity, aging, and reflection don't belong to one generation, they connect us all. But Dolly's playful remark wasn't the only emotional layer to this story. Miley herself admitted something surprising about the track, something that made her question whether it should have ever been released in the first place. For Miley, Used to Be Young wasn't just another single, it was one of the most vulnerable pieces of music she had ever put out. And in her Harper's Bazaar interview, she admitted something surprising. She almost didn't release it at all. She confessed that, looking back, she sometimes wonders, did I really need to put this out? The song felt so raw, so deeply personal, that it was almost like opening a diary for the whole world to read. Miley explained that now, as she's grown more private with her personal life, she might have chosen to keep a song like that to herself. Yet at the same time, she's glad it exists because it captured a moment in her journey that fans could witness. Still, she acknowledged that not everyone would connect with it. It just feels like a song that's so personal, she said, that it's hard for people to relate. And that honesty struck a chord. Here was a pop superstar admitting that not every hit has to be universal. Some songs are meant to reveal a piece of the artist, even if they don't top every chart or dominate every playlist. But Miley's confession also raised a bigger question. Why would a 30-year-old superstar feel such a heavy weight about aging, youth, and identity? The answer lies in the very world she grew up in, Hollywood. For most people, turning 30 isn't the end of youth. It's the beginning of truly figuring life out. But in Hollywood, the rules are different. In an industry obsessed with image, perfection, and constant reinvention, being young isn't just an age, it's a currency. Every wrinkle, every mistake, every change in appearance is magnified under the spotlight. And for someone like Miley, who grew up with cameras on her since childhood, the pressure to hold on to youth has always been suffocating. Used to Be Young wasn't just about getting older. It was about the unique kind of exhaustion that comes from being watched, judged, and criticized through every stage of life. For Miley, her wild years weren't just memories, they were headlines. Her mistakes weren't private, they were public entertainment. So when she sang about looking back, it wasn't nostalgia in the usual sense. It was a reflection on what it means to grow up in a world where youth isn't something you live through. It's something you're forced to perform. And that's what made Dolly's comment so powerful. On one hand, she joked that she deserved the song more because she's truly lived those years, but on the other, her words highlighted something deeper. The strange reality that in Hollywood, 30 can feel old, while 80 can feel timeless. But Miley didn't stop at reflecting on her past. In that same interview, she revealed something far more surprising, an ambitious project that could redefine her entire career. Just when fans thought the most revealing part of Miley's Harper's Bazaar interview was her honesty about Used to Be Young, she dropped a bombshell no one saw coming. Miley revealed that she's working on a brand new visual album titled Something Beautiful. And the inspiration behind it? Not another pop star. Not even a modern chart-topping album. Instead, Miley set her sights on one of the most legendary and ambitious projects in rock history, Pink Floyd's 1979 masterpiece, The Wall. But in classic Miley style, she added her own twist. She described it as making the wall, but with a better wardrobe, more glamour, and soaked-in pop culture. It's a bold vision, part performance art, part commentary, and all Miley. She explained that the project is her way of addressing what she called a sick culture, using music not just to entertain, but to heal. It's an attempt to hold up a mirror to the chaos of modern life while giving it a dazzling cinematic frame. Fans immediately drew comparisons between her idea and the themes of The Wall: isolation, fame, ego, and the walls we build around ourselves. But Miley isn't copying. It's more like she's reimagining those ideas for a new generation, with her own scars and triumphs at the center. And if Used to Be Young proved anything, it's that Miley Cyrus has reached a point in her career where vulnerability and artistic risk aren't just options. They're the very things keeping her relevant. But this raises the ultimate question: what does all of this, Dolly's reaction, Miley's vulnerability, and this daring new project, say about the legacy of both women? At first, Dolly Parton's reaction to Used to Be Young sounded like a joke. Light-hearted, witty, the kind of thing only Dolly could get away with. But beneath the humor was something more meaningful. It showed just how timeless great music can be. A song written by a 30-year-old pop star resonated so deeply with an 80-year-old legend that she wished it was hers. That's the magic of storytelling through music. It crosses generations, it reshapes experiences, and it reminds us that the emotions we feel aren't tied to age, but to the human journey itself. For Dolly, the song was a reminder of the roads she's walked. For Miley, it was a confession of the battles she's faced in the public eye. And for fans, it was a moment of connection, proof that no matter how different our lives look, the feelings of regret, growth, and reflection bind us together. Now, with Miley preparing to launch something beautiful, inspired by one of the boldest concept albums in history, it feels like she's stepping into a new era, one that's more fearless, more experimental, and more honest than ever before. And maybe that's the real lesson from this story. Youth may fade, fame may change, but music, the kind that speaks to the soul, never gets old.
Modest tranquility.